Hello, welcome to another episode of the Menswear Style Podcast. I'm your host, Pete Brooker, and today I'm talking to Matt Jones, one of the co-founders of Hemingsworth. And before I bring Matt in, let me tell you a bit about Hemingsworth from their website. Born out of the desire to set new standards in versatile and enduring tailoring, one that reflects our brand's core value of uncompromisable English quality. This philosophy is built into every piece we make, inspiring us to make the most comfortable, versatile and luxurious garments a man would want to wear all day, functioning as well in both formal and casual occasions, and most importantly, the journey in between. And here to tell us about the journey of Hemingsworth, in his own words, is co-founder Matt Jones.
We talked about cookie cutter answers before we came
we did.
by numbers, and whether I get one of them. I'll give you my pain point, because I think that's where I spent a lot of time traveling around, doing a lot of flights, and I haven't found a solution to this. So there you go. There's maybe we haven't found an answer. But I used to pack way too many clothes all the time, or I wanted to bring a suit, and by the time I pulled it out, whatever location I got to, it was creased, it was crinkled. Same with shirts. The premise for Hemingsworth is to create a wardrobe that travels a lot better. Clothes that don't crease, that have recovery properties. I'm a guy, I sweat. Also, my waist expands because I enjoy a drink on a plane. I enjoy having a meal. And rather than having these washboard abs, which I've just never had. So having clothes that kind of adapt with me and where I'm going. And I wouldn't say that then that means they're just for travel alone. I think travel just is this extreme of conditions, if you want, where you can go from warmer climes to colder ones and different conditions. It doesn't mean, I'm wearing one of our kind of big knits at home today, and I'm absolutely loving it. But the idea is you put that on after you've taken this adventurous plunge into the swim, maybe when you're on a Balearic coast in November where the temperature's, I need to put something on. And whether that answers it, we say it's, for the modern globetrotter, and the last 2 years, as we know, there hasn't been a lot of that. But everything we create is designed for that more kind of long haul, where you're going in between different climes.
And do you start with, so you started with the idea of what you want in a wardrobe. Do you then kind of percolate ideas for designs, and then, or do you go, right, now I need to talk to a mate to see if I can make this happen? Maybe I need to approach designers. Can you remember the steps beyond first the idea?
Sure. I mean, there were a lot of steps. There's 100 steps we don't talk about because there's usually 100 mistakes with most of these things. We started with swim because I was always wearing shorts. I was living, again, I referenced it in the Balearics, and I think a lot of the ideologies of situations or occasional wear are shaped around that. And I wanted a set of shorts that were really, really comfortable. I think a lot of there's been the last 15 years of kind of growing boom of tailored swimwear, and some done a really good job. I think some have breathed vitality into that space. Others, there's nothing wrong with this, but it's a kind of slim fit short, which doesn't really kind of adapt with you over the time. So that was our first kind of starting point. It's kind of, how do we have a short that actually your waist is going to expand about an inch and a half throughout the day, back down and again and again, and something you can swim in. And we started with that as a halo product because that's what I wanted to use. I wanted to go swimming, and I wanted to wear a short that looked acceptable when I was on a plane, rather than these silly designs sometimes you say. And I'm much more conservative, so obviously it's not silly designs, but you're not going to see me in a kind of banana insignias on my shorts.
Not unless we get that crowdfunder going.
Yeah. And we built out from there. So it's good. Okay, let's put a nice blazer with that, just to smarten that up. And I thought, I'm never going to create polos or t-shirts. There's enough of them in the world. I thought, if we're going to do it, how do we create something that is on that, again, that hem mentality, a little bit of stretch in maybe a 6% bit of lycra, just so you've got that, because you don't want to put something that's so stiff and rigid. Open one piece collars, and we just kept going from there, and either side of that. So what goes well with a short, whether it's a Sirocco. Well, since we've made a kind of tailored trouser and just cut it at the leg, why don't we just extend that and not do the cutting process? So we've got the trouser. And we started adding knitwear, having much more fun with jackets. I think me being this really kind of pale and red skin sort of Celtic looking guy, I favour the colder months and the layers. So I'm so pleased, we kind of then expanded into autumn winter. And we've got this ready to wear thing. I think it's, we have a lot of clients that feed in to, could you do this? Do you like this? And we like that because a lot of them are really good ideas. Most of our clientele, they're chief execs. You got all the fun actors and celebs, but they're the real world users that have come across these problems. And I think they go, okay, I've got the solution here to this problem that Hemingsworth has created. So how about this? We did an espadrille with Goral footwear, and they're brilliant. They kind of spearheaded the whole Blake Stitch thing where you can resell trainers. And we created this resell espadrille. It's foldable, puts it in your pocket, but it looks beautiful. It's not one of those throwaway things, which I think is one of the big issues with those sort of horrible things. You probably wear them in a nightclub. They look white and they come out black. Not that you take these in there. So I think it's a mix. There's constantly, we're all finding, okay, wouldn't this be good? Or wouldn't this be the great situation? And I think it's one of the reasons we've focused so much with autumn, winter recently. It's because we have been at home. We've been anchored in that way. Whereas I think previously all of the stuff favoured the kind of warmer seasons.
Matt, I'm really excited about the new collection. The new collection that's out, the autumn winter collection, the Origins. And maybe you can tell me about the story and some of the ideas and inspirations behind the designs, please.
Well, I'm glad you're excited. So am I, Peter.
I am excited.
Autumn, winter, icons, origins. I think it goes back to previous season, SS21. Icons was all about celebrating these key influences on myself, design team, that we've kind of taken and grasped and have inspired the various cuts and looks to date. The kind of Cary Grants into Catch a Thief, references to Bond and so forth. And I think for autumn winter, with this being our first, we thought maybe let's take a step back and go through whatever we could find on the history books, looking back at kind of where a lot of these great actors or great influencers, and I hate coining that term because it's kind of got another meaning for the modern day. No bad thing, there you go. But these real kind of Steve McQueens at this time, and so many of them were great athletes, and a lot of their confidence and the building these skills all came from various athletic pursuits and sports. So the idea for us was to kind of go back and look at what they might have been wearing at the time, as this, whether it be the rowing and this kind of Harvard insignia, if you want, on some of the knitwear jumpers. And rowing, again, obviously really tied into our kind of thoroughbred swimwear that we do. But the chunky fleece jackets, the track varsity running jackets, just with these references, I think, to earlier times rather than all that they were. And I think we're going to make that too obvious. We don't really do it. We're not really a big push on marketing or try hard. And I think that's probably my experience from the past, just now wanting to move away from that. But the collection is definitely my favorite. And it's one of those, every single piece, I think, when guys look at it, go, yeah, I want that, or I could wear that, and I find that occasion, as opposed to going, ooh, maybe just that one or two. But yeah, we'll take a walk in Harrods, and I'll show you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was going to ask, where do you think that comes from, those nods to, say, retro and the old classics, like you mentioned Cary Grant there, to Catch a Thief. You got the I think it's called the Robbie, isn't it, on the website?
The Robbie,
almost
Robbie
like a Breton long sleeve. I don't think Breton's the right term, but
no, that's it. A hooped.
Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. But so I consider you a bit of an old soul, Matt. In many ways, that we have that affinity for, say, like a Roger Moore safari jacket. You know, a lot of people would just be quite modern and go, well, what can we reinterpret maybe from today's era? Like, what would Daniel Craig do? But I think you're looking more into something that's more timeless. And, you know, does that come from like watching old movies as a kid, or is that something that you had ingrained like for your parents? Where did that come from?
I think we're not rushed, and we don't really. It'd be foolish to say we don't follow trends in so much. But I think the things that do stand the test of time. I'll give you an old story as we take another shoehorn curveball.
Please.
I remember being on a beach, and I was watching this old boy push out his boat, and it was a knackered little boat with a lovely kind of rustic, warm sail. And he's pushing out between these two giant yachts. And as you can imagine, as most yachts in the summer, these had a lot of people and they had a lot of bodies, and they were wearing maybe the shorts that represented different demographics. You know, they're quite loud and rarey. And he pushed out in between, and he went off for an hour. I'd finished lunch, and I had to go up to him because I was living locally at the time. I was, where have you been? As he came back with all these oranges that he picked, and he said, I've just got these locally, and is that where you're from? And we, you know, all those wonderful, splendid things. And we kept getting interrupted as we were looking over our shoulders to these boats, you know, getting louder and louder and this. And it eventually transpired he's the owner of the beach and most of that kind of corner of land, and obviously they're paying him for the to anchor there at the time. And I really liked the idea that this guy who had his shirt off was actually kind of, you know, that scorched but looked really, really good, as opposed to me in a kind of lobster fight suited him. I liked that he was just really laid back and relaxed with all of this. And I always wanted to be, for a guy like him, if you want, in terms of the styles that we develop, something that is really practical, something I think a lot of brands forget is something that's really, really comfortable. And if you look at a lot of the stuff going back in the past, it's all utilitarian. It had a use, it had a purpose, it had pockets, not for the sake of just adding them on there, and really lovely little details and belts. And I think everything had a sense of elegance as well. And elegance isn't to kind of sound like, oh, it's a tuxedo, you know. It's I think those little details encourage confidence when you start adding them, which is why, you know, I can talk about the swim. I can go on the shoehorn speech of a 29-piece pattern and 17 hand-finished stages. But it's more, you know, the buckles we have are from Germany. They're specially created for us. The Tahitian mother-of-pearl buttons that we have from Italy. And it's just a long list of those. And they're little details that are nods to people really, really caring about those, you know, rather than just, I think a lot of brands now, you look at them, you look like a sponsored MotoGP athlete, don't you? It's kind of you've got so many logos and crests on you. So I think that's more. I think we don't need to reinvent the wheel with it. There was a lot of little beautiful things that can come out, and we just go back to. And I think just as I go on this long-winded answer here, it's the comfort is the big one. And feeling good inside them, rather than stuff which is so tight for the body. You know, this that's not, you know, everyone's pretending things are tailored nowadays. That they're not. And you'll know enough about that with your own background.
Well, I get the tailored analogy a lot, which confuses me, because most people talk about what they're referring to is just ready to wear, but they're going, well, it's a tailored look. I'm like, well, that doesn't necessarily mean it has to look completely shrink wrapped, and not everyone can have a tailored look if it's off the peg, because that's counterintuitive. But no, I understand what you mean. And I mean, you touched upon some of the ingredients for the products, but the main mantra, and I feel like the heartbeat of the brand, is the made in England. And maybe you can help me define what is made in England, when it seems like there is quite an ambiguous definition of made in England these days. Perhaps you can just help me.
anyone can. And it's really sad. It's a real bugbear, and there's certainly bigger heavyweights within the industry that have done more and are trying to bridge this of rules and regulations. You see these companies that put London or England in their logos and the various brands. And this sounds like a rant now, so I see your eyes kind of moving back. Like,
no, I'm ready. I'm.
When you say, we try and make as much as possible over here, really, over what's your category? When you start losing, is that a degree of profit that you have to reduce? And I think for us, we tried, because we started with the swimwear. We tried making that particular pattern in other places, and we couldn't. It took too long. There were too many inconsistencies and mistakes, and there's the old skills just weren't there, and ones that you could see, these kind of hand cutting as opposed to just always on a machine. There was real love that was put into it. Okay, this feels right. This feels nice. It's lovely to be able to drive down to the factory. This one in particular in London. And make those changes and go through it rather than just doing things on a conference call with maybe a factory manager. And I think we decided at that point, okay, where do we want to make everything else? Because it's triumphantly expensive, but I think most of our audience, they appreciate that fact. And it's not to say that others don't. Sometimes it can be exclusive in the price. The idea, it would be lovely if making in England was a bit more accessible. I think that would be but it's so easy to chase profit and go overseas. What I don't understand is people that, most of what you're paying for with those products isn't the make, it's not the fabric. You're paying for the shipping fees nowadays if you don't make it in England, and all that is then put back into that cost. Whereas I prefer all the value of all the product is on the maker and all the ingredients that are in there, and doing that as best as possible. And it's, I think whether it be the jackets, whether it be knitwear and different parts of England that we use, I can't imagine us making anywhere else. I see what comes through on the product. I go, it's like you guys. No, it's not. And I enjoy it. We're a British brand. I don't understand how you can be British and make overseas or to put a button on at the end.
So what are the rules of, so sorry to try and nail you down on this, but I feel like if I had to ask anyone, it had to be you. After talking to several people about this, there seems to be some kind of conflated opinion that you could just make 95% of the product in Pakistan and then put one button on that's British, and that 5% now makes it eligible to pass the Made in Britain license. Is there any kind of black and white on this?
There's a grey area. There is a grey area. What I don't understand, you've got some really great institutions out there. One called Great, and we've got to protect this British making. It's got this reputation all around the world, and slowly it's been chipped away at. We equally, the reason we make in so many different factories, what we could have done and what would have been logical and I guess sense is make one product, make lots of them in one factory, and it be our own. Well, the industry it's seen growth recently, again, just in the wake of Brexit. But we decided to support as many of the existing factories that are out there rather than creating another, because all we're doing is creating more competition that's going to take business from these who've got the I call them the old oligarchs, the skill makers, and
know them well.
this dying breed, but keep them in business, and that's the key. And the focus for us is to make in more English factories than any other British brand. And I don't think we're ever going to get to the volumes of what some will do, but I'm really happy to say, we'll put 2,000 units there, 5,000 units there, and love the products, and I love what we get. And it is nice you always get to hang around with the factory owners, and I think they enjoy it because most of the things that they go, oh, can you do this? It's quite simple. Can you do this? We go, right, what should we create together? What can you do? What's something which you've got in the old rule book, maybe from 20 years ago, that we can kind of rediscover, or that's been put away. So the rules of making in England, they're a grey area. It would be nice if there was maybe some badge which said 100% made in England, or less than 50% or less, but it gets confusing, those traffic light systems. Hopefully they'll pull a big group of people together and we can all knock our heads together in the future. But until then,
it sounds to me like and this has only just come to mind, so I'm not sure how this is going to come out, but it sounds like the VAR of the clothing industry, but VAR when it first came out. So video assistant referee, for the people that don't watch football, they kind of then started drawing imaginary lines on offsides, and then like other kind of weird rules about handball, 5 passages of play ago, and go, well, we can't have a goal now because some dude handballed it just before the whistle blew. And that seems to be now in this mix where there's so many different rules that leaving the EU and what does constitute made in Britain and what doesn't. And now we can, like you say, have the word London tacked onto everything. So long as it's this London, so long as it's designed in London, we can have the word London on it, even though it's made entirely in somewhere else. It just feels like there's it needs to be just, is it onside or is it offside? Let's just help everyone out and make it very easy.
It would. I still don't understand the benefit of saying designed in London in terms of that. What value that brings.
And also, like, are you sure it's designed in London? And maybe you might have been on a flight back from Japan, like over the Pacific somewhere. I mean, you might have landed in London when the idea was finished, but then does that make it definitely in London?
No, sure. And I think that just that provenance anyway is useful to understand, that kind of journey of the garment. I think you can indulge. It doesn't mean all the best makers are in England or Britain or that. I think it's good for the consumer to know where things come from.
Do you think your customer appreciates that? Like a customer that appreciates a Savile Row suit will typically just buy Savile Row suits for knowing that it's been made on Savile Row. Do you have that kind of demographic?
There's a promise there, I would say, and there's an expectation. And so long as you meet it as a brand, you're contributing to the value of made in England, and you're doing a good service. Yeah, it's definitely one of the reasons we've appealed and stood out over others, because I think especially a lot of retailers, they recognize the challenges and how so many probably brands originally started out making in England. Now it's overseas. I mean, have a look at where your coat's made and that, and it's usually 4 or 5 places. They're all in the same countries and markets. And even a lot of the British brands that you and I wear, you'll be surprised. But I'm not going to name drop because
I understand. Matt, you talked about visiting factories and maybe asking them to bring out archives. I want to know what the most enjoyable part of the process for you is. It that, or is it putting the mood boards together? Is it getting the prototypes in your hand? Is there like a really nice, rewarding part of the process for you?
Yeah, I blew some smoke up Henry's derriere earlier, our creative director, and it's really great background. I think for him, that he gets the enjoyment of seeing what's possible and making sure that every stitch on an edition is right. For me, I'm still that guy. This was a new industry for me from where I came from. So I enjoy wearing the clothes. I enjoy testing out the clothes. Okay, the sleeves are either too short or too long, and it's those things, or it needs more give. Or could we go for everything? Unfortunately, I never really have to have those conversations, because by the time they get to me, Henry's done all of those things. So it's a wonderful relationship. I think it's a kind of you have that starting point, and you just go off and do your things. And mood boards are lovely. As a absolute wow, what could we create here? What could we design? Because there isn't really this cap. It's not. Of course, you want to keep things commercial. You got to enjoy them, and it's got to be maybe 15 or 20% of I was going to say lunacy or fantasia or idiocy, maybe, where you just go, could we do that? Could it work? And I think that's really, really great. If we ever did a sample sale of all these random quirky little bits, but yeah, I like it. We found our feet, especially as a young brand. We established 2013, but it took us about 4 years to develop the swim short, which feels like a long time, but once you understand what goes into the short, yeah, I think you it becomes okay. All right, I understand this, and I like it. I think it's just to come up with winners, and we found what our best sellers are with people, so that they can also get used to the various fits now. I'm just like a customer. I enjoy putting the clothes on, seeing how they feel, getting the reaction. Again, it's more subdued. It's about how it makes me feel. But it's nice to walk into a room and you go, yeah, this is one of mine.
Yeah. No, I bet. Not to blow smoke up your kazoo, man, but I've enjoyed your shorts firsthand. I can tell you, you were kind enough to send on a pair of Clipper shorts. Must have been about 4 years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And they've, I send you photos of everywhere I go, just to kind of make you jealous about my.
They are well-traveled shorts.
Those shorts they've done some miles, my friend. But what I do like about them, more than anything, is that you can just literally get out of the pool and you don't feel out of place by them walking into the hotel or maybe going in to get a drink, somewhere where you feel like you have to get changed out of your board shorts to put something else on for that short passage of, maybe picking up a coffee from the canteen. But, I could literally walk around these shorts anywhere and I didn't feel out of place. And they've stood the test of time. They've been a really nice accompaniment on my travels.
I'm pleased, and I think that's always feedback is lovely to hear. They're a short that you can swim in. They're not a swim short that you can wear outside of the pool, as I think others have kind of proceeded in that area. The idea is you wouldn't know they're a swim short until you're actually in the water. That's what we went for with that. I think as you probably benefit the adjustable waist belt rather than just something at the side, plus with a French fly, everything is kind of kept in and it feels nicer rather than sometimes I think having a metal clasp that there could be a bit of drama in the day, feeling that might suddenly open at any point.
Yeah. But also, and I don't know if this works in favour for you, but since I've had these pair of shorts and they've lasted, I've not actually been bothered about getting any other pairs. So, we mentioned Bond earlier. There's obviously a lot of shorts that Bond might wear in different films for different occasions by different brands, and people will go, "Oh, have you realised this one's now out, or you can buy this one in this one?" And I'm like, well, it's not going to do me any favors because I'm not going to wear them. They'll probably just sit in my collection. So I'm okay. I've got my swim shorts. I'm all good to go. It's a bit like how everyone has their tuxedos. They don't have like 4 or 5 different tuxedos they might want to wear. Well, most people don't. They go, I've got my one tuxedo. It's good. It served the purpose.
Given how much you get sent, I'm going to think that's a very big compliment then. And especially I think there's lots of swim brands out there, and I think they all do their own thing, and most of them do that really, really well, whether it be kind of recycled nature, more vitality in terms of men's health, and that. I think they're all good. Ours, again, just trying to be comfy, but have that tailored look. I don't really like the ties at the front, because if I'm wearing a polo shirt, they're going to stick out over that. Mm-hmm. And since you are, and I'm able to edit this, Peter, there we go, as I break this up and break the third person, I was going to say, do we talk about Bond? And do I suddenly throw that in there and talk about the absolute crap?
Why don't you have a little run at it, and then if you don't want it in, then I'll take it out. It's no problem.
Yeah, I just wonder, you talk about things that Bond would wear, and it's funny. And one of the stories that we don't talk about all too much, but a guy who likes wearing our shorts is the famous DC. So much so that when they were filming on the last film, there were a lot of birdies, because it all got a bit intense at the end, that he went into his bag and said, I don't want to wear these ones. I want to wear mine. And he pulled out the scruffiest shorts, the scruffiest possible. Because I think I didn't know this, but he's had one of ours, one a Hemingsworth Clipper, for a long time. I want to wear this. So they then got in touch, the wardrobe team, and we created, I think, 30 pairs for the film. unfortunately, things like sponsorships, licenses, all that wonderful stuff, Peter, you can't sometimes combat. But it's nice to know, that James Bond probably wouldn't drink an aluminous green beer, and he also, would wear a Hemingsworth short if he wasn't being paid to do so any other way.
That's fascinating. Or perhaps certain brands were paying to have their product in place and didn't want yours in that spot, as it were. It's a fascinating conversation to have, but I appreciate there are so many guardrails and red tape, and
if we go any further, there's not.
If we go any further, we'll have to sign non-disclosures.
Forward. That's it. It just feels like I'm going to be walking over mines or holding grenades. So we've got clientele-wise, we're very, very fortunate. I mean, a lot of the actors or celebrities, they wear us in their downtime, and that's something we're really proud of when they're not being paid to wear things. And I touched on Daniel Craig there, but it's nice when people are relaxing. That's what they go to, and I think that's the same thing for us. We're not a heavily social brand. We're not heavily marketed. As I said, my background was marketing and advertising, and I think you start to withdraw from all these big claims. So trying to create a brand that's everything that it says it is, and just leave it at that. Just appreciate the product. And
how do you draw that line then between knowing that someone that maybe a high-profiled person is wearing your short, but you also want to stay modest, which is kind of in keeping with, I think, yourself as a person and as a brand, not to kind of plaster their face with the shorts all over social media once you find out that they might be wearing them. You also might want to have a little bit of exposure, enjoy a bit of spike of popularity. Do you ever find like the yin and yang of that?
You do. I think you just. I think it's fine to amplify things that are out there, but it gives you confidence. I think also a lot of the peer network as well, which helps. It's not about trying to remain aspirational just for the sake of it. To keep going, hey, look, we've got David Beckham this week, and so forth, and or Jamie Dornan. It's cool. They're wearing it, great. You see him on the Late Show, you see him on Ellen. You go, and I understand why you do it. It shouldn't be a tough sell. You pick up the product, it fits, it makes you feel very nice. It's made in England, and it shouldn't be harder than that. And I think so far we've been very, very lucky that we haven't had to do that, and we've been able to grow organically. Whereas I think a lot of the companies, especially those either with big groups or on their backs, you've got pressured targets, and you're going to try and employ multiple tactics to get your brand out there or have it associated with these individuals for such a small window of time. They might have picked up your T-shirt and people go, oh my God, they went nuts over us. And I think that does more damage than good sometimes with the individuals who wanted to wear it. I think if you got, it's not about neediness. I understand both sides of the coin. We're not that, and that's because we're in a position where we just create nice clothes. People want to wear them. They want to talk about them. Great. He says for now. Right.
And the press release tomorrow will be Daniel Craig wearing the latest Clippers in Jamaica. Can't wait.
That old street billboard. Yeah.
But I changed my mind. Matt, thanks so much for taking the time out to jump on the show. Hemingsworth.com. We'll leave all the links in the show notes. I do encourage everyone, even if you like Bond, especially, there's so much stuff on there, like the safari jackets that we mentioned. I'm certainly, I've got my trigger finger over the Robbie, the Cary Grant piece, having done a podcast myself on To Catch a Thief and the costumes done by Edith Head over there. So lots of great stuff to dip into. But until next time, Matt, take care of yourself.
Peter, thank you very much for this. Thank you for doing a great job. And as we approach Christmas, have an absolute wonderful one, mate. All right?
You've been listening to the Menswear Style podcast. Be sure to head over to menswearstyle.co.uk for more menswear content, and email info@menswearstyle.co.uk if you would like to be a future guest on the show. Finally, please help support the show by leaving a review on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Until next time.